Hey everybody, my name is Lia Grainger and I'm one of the hosts of Curtain Call, a weekly live interview series with powerful women in the arts. And Curtain Call is presented by FabCollab, which is a wonderful new organization that arose during the pandemic to continue to foster the connection between artists and audiences. And so we've been doing that since the beginning of the pandemic, and we've had a bunch of wonderful artists. I would want to make one little announcement today is that we have now been sponsored by Factor. So we want to thank Factor so much for making Curtain Call possible and for allowing us to bring so many different voices to the world during this time. Today we're going to be featuring an amazing artist. We're really excited. Her name is Amanda Martinez, and she's a singer-songwriter and an actor and has a lot of amazing stories to tell. So I'm going to invite her to join right now. Amanda has released multiple albums, won many awards. She's also a successful actor. There she is.
Leah, I was going to say, is it too early to drink tequila? Because I need a drink. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad we're connected.
I know. For people that weren't tuned in earlier, we had a few technical difficulties getting connected to our Instagram. I mean, it's always the case when you're doing these sort of live stream things that there's just always the possibility of technical hiccups, but we're here now. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. So where are you joining us from right now?
I'm joining you from my bedroom in Toronto. Whereabouts are you?
I live in Toronto, but I'm actually at a cottage in Haliburton today.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh,
I know,
beautiful.
it's the first time to leave that I've left the city since the summer, so it's nice.
Oh, must be so beautiful up there.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. I wanted to say before we jump in that Amanda's going to be performing with at FabCollab's festival Women in Song Celebrate International Women's Day on March 28th. So we're so excited to be able to present you live during this time when those kind of opportunities are so limited.
I am so excited. I am so excited. You have no idea. I was telling Tamara, I'm like, I feel like it's been so long, first of all, that I've been on stage and live, but what a beautiful opportunity. And what you guys are doing is so incredible. So it's a real honor for me. And I feel really lucky to be on sharing the stage with such incredible women.
Have you been able to perform during the pandemic? Have there been other opportunities?
I've had a few opportunities. The first one, oh gosh, from our living room was with the City of Toronto. And then through the National Arts Centre, through Canada Performs. And then we did a show actually in Small World Music for the Niagara Jazz Festival. And then we did a couple Facebook Lives, just my husband Drew and I on bass and playing guitar. But there's nothing like being on a real stage, you know, being at Lula Lounge, one of my favorite places. So this is going to be so exciting.
Yeah, you must have you performed at Lula a lot? Because it seems like your music is like right in their wheelhouse.
Yes. When I feel like it's interesting. Before I left TD Bank in my other life, I remember my boss, who was the head of trade finance for Latin America, he brought me to Lula Lounge before it was Lula Lounge, when it was, I can't remember the name, but when Jose had started like just having these parties out of the space. And then it was like a few years later when I had left and doing my first show there. So I feel like we kind of grew up together, Lula and I.
Yeah, because it would just be like, yeah, it's such that you had transitioned totally into this arts-based career from something that was quite corporate, no?
Yeah. Yes, from TV, I think. Yeah.
You there with like your coworker and then there like on the stage.
Yeah, very surreal.
Can you tell me like what's going on with you right now? Are you like more focused on music, or I've heard that you have a new series that you're working on? A new web series?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. It's funny. Both my husband and I are musicians. I mean, I don't, I feel strange calling myself a musician because I didn't study music, but it's my passion. But my husband Drew is a bassist, and went to school for jazz and plays with the Sultans of Swing, as you know. Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, when this all happened last year, we were really freaking out and full of, what are we going to do? And I feel very fortunate that all along I've been doing acting, but I've never been in anything that anyone would have necessarily seen me in. And then just this past year, I've just had some really awesome opportunities. Most recently on a Hallmark film. So people are like, oh, that's so great you're starting to do acting. And I'm like, well, actually, I've been doing it for like 30 years now at the same agent. I started when I was really young. And, but so that I feel like I've been doing more of. It's just worked out that way. But the show that I think
how that has how during the pandemic, they've been able to sort of keep production going in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
That with really strict protocol is what I've heard with my friends that are in the industry, is that those are the people that get tested the most.
Oh yeah. Even just for this one day shoot that I had last week, it was like two tests before, a test right after. Everybody there has like the masks as well as the plexiglass on top, and then the actors have to remove them for the scenes. But as soon as we're done, cut, we're all with our masks back on. So yeah, I feel so fortunate that industry hasn't been hit and has been able to continue. So yeah, but the show that you're talking about is a brand new show that I'm launching on my 50th birthday on April 2nd. It's called Ingredients for a Good Life. And it's really inspired by, I feel like for so much of my life, I've had this fixation with self-help books and really feeling like, oh, everybody else has the answers and everyone else must have a better way of doing it. I just realized that through my own, listening to my own instincts, I've developed my own little self-care routine and really started zoning in on what makes me feel good. And it's just going to be a show with conversations with everyday people and just what works in their life. And I feel like through conversation, we can figure out for ourselves what works. I don't think that there's a recipe for a good life, but I do think that just from interacting with one another, we can test out different recipes and see, what we want to incorporate into our own life and what might not be for us. So I don't think there are any right answers, but I just want to have the conversation of I love talking to people about what do you do with your life, the things that we don't see.
Have you, do you know any of the people that you're going to be speaking with yet?
I do. I have quite a long list, from all the, I mean, I've been alive for 50 years, so a lot of people that I've come in contact. Let me think for a second. So one person actually who is linked to the Women in Song show, Deborah Brown. She is a choreographer who I met probably about maybe 15 years ago, maybe 12 or 15 years ago. She's also an alumni from York University. I did my master's in business there, and she was a dance major, I'm assuming. But we were both there. She had brought her show of dancers and acrobats. And she has such great energy. And I've always been a huge fan of dance. That was my secret dream. I wanted to be a ballerina. So anyway, we were chatting, and then about maybe 10 years later, I bumped into her where I was performing at an event for York University, and I didn't know she was in the audience. And I was actually so embarrassed because I got off the stage to do my little dance, and I would never have done that knowing she was in the audience.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
But she was like, you want to dance? I can feel it. She's like, we should do a music video. I'm like, okay, Deborah. But then when I had the funding this past year from Factor, huge shout out to Factor.
Seriously.
I feel so grateful. I know they're sponsoring the series, and they've really sponsored my last 3 albums. So when I had this funding for a video, I called her, and she introduced me. So anyway, I'm going to talk. She's going to be one of my guests, but she introduced me to Canada's Ballet Jorgen, who we made the video with, for Estaba Cayendo, and who are going to be performing with me for my very first time on stage live from the Little Lounge as part of Women in Song on the 28th.
It's so wonderful because we have never featured ballet. Like we've had some flamenco. There's a lot of flamenco within, like I'm a flamenco dancer. Tamara's the
Right.
singer and the dancer, and there's a lot of flamenco in our organization. But yeah, we're so excited to have Ballet Yorgan and to have these two performers. And so they're dancing Deborah's choreography. Is that right?
Yeah, well, the way that Deborah works is she works more with not necessarily like coming up with a specific sequence of steps, but she uses movements that they've already been working with. But then she really works on like the connection between the dancers and those subtle differences and the emotion. And then she might throw in, she's very innovative. Like I said, she worked with the Cirque du Soleil for many years. And I feel like, yeah, she brings out the spirit of the dance. So she's been working really closely with them and sending me little videos. So when I first saw them at a rehearsal bring my song to life through dance, I was like crying. So, you know, I don't know that translated onto the video because when you're on film, it's very different than seeing a dance, as you know, up close. And I'm excited.
Live performance is different for sure.
Yes. So I'm so excited for the audience to get that feel of the dance.
Yeah. And yeah, so do you feel like you really connect with dance in a sort of kind of profound way? It sounds like that's something that's been, even though it hasn't been like your main pursuit, you have a lot of respect for the art form.
Yeah, like I said, it was like, it's in my heart as my dream. I just like idolize dancers, ballerinas, flamenco dancers, whatever. I just love, like, that is what I would have wanted to do. And recently, as part of my morning routine, you know, I started finally being consistent about meditating, and never thought in a million years I would, but I actually look forward to it. And I don't do it for long, like 10 minutes.
Do you find it difficult? Did you hear me? Sorry, I find meditating very difficult. Like I try to incorporate it into my practice, and it's often a struggle for me.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what my secret is. If I just had to sit there with nothing, I wouldn't be able to do it. But I've been using the Headspace app. And Andy is the voice that I listen to, and he has just this really lovely way of kind of just giving you a little interesting thought before he leads you through the exercise. So I'm not just like sitting in silence, but then there are pauses that you can build up, starting slow, starting small, which is a concept that for me is an important ingredient for a good life. I'm one of those people that I'm like about results and like, show me the money, you know, like I'm not about process, which is what art is about. But I've had to learn that small steps can actually be really powerful if you just, like, I just would underestimate, oh, what's 5 minutes gonna do, you know, and then I would do nothing and say, well, and then all this time has passed by. I'm like, well, if you had done 5 or 10 minutes every day, you would see a difference in your guitar playing, or in your, like, for example, when I had my twins, afterwards, the doctor told me that I had this abdominal separation. And he said, but unless you have like tons of money for like a tummy tuck or getting a trainer, like there's nothing you can do really. So I did nothing for 10 years or 12. My kids are 8 now. So 8 years. And then I started having back troubles. And then I started doing the 7-minute workout specifically for the core, and I can feel a difference. So I really feel like people like don't underestimate what small steps can do. So back to meditation, it is one of my ingredients in the morning, part of my morning routine, as well as dance, and just lighting a candle and just letting myself dance for 10 minutes. Not to perform, but just for myself.
That's amazing. I need to do that. I mean, it's something that I feel like I'll do, like, because during the pandemic, it's been with flamenco, it's like such a noisy, it's hard to do in the home.
Right, of course. Right?
Work, so I really just like haven't been, I kind of have just like let it slip a little bit. And yeah, I just find myself dancing around the kitchen and stuff like that sometimes, but I'm also like so excited to be back in the studio, or just to be able to like continue my practice. What has the pandemic been like for you? Like, how have you been able to like center yourself and ground yourself with with like 3 children and being stuck at home. Tomorrow says want to lead a FabCollab morning.
No, that's I'm like, absolutely. You have no idea. Like 7 minutes, it goes by so fast, and then you actually feel good. But you know what's really interesting? When I was still in that mind frame of like, oh, what's 5 minutes going to do, please? I came across this podcast with Marie Forleo and this doctor out of the UK who wrote this book called 5 Minutes to Better Health, which I never would have liked. That would not attract me. So I'd be like, whatever. Yeah. But what he says is that it's actually not the repetition that causes a good habit, but the feeling that you have after you've done something that will make you repeat it. So whether it's reaching for chocolate, even if you don't mean to, it gave you that buzz. So then you're going to do it again. Or following through with something that you've been wanting to do. So even after that 5 minutes of whatever it is you're trying to work on, exercise or playing an instrument or that thing you've been putting off, if you actually do it for 5 minutes, it'll be like a bit of a high, like, oh, I did it. And then you'll want to do it again. That's my little preach for the day.
Yeah, it's like the activity, like it's a reward in itself. Like doing the thing is great, but also like having done it is often rewarding.
Totally. But in your mind, you're like, well, what's 5 minutes going to do? Or that's how I was. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Absolutely.
You know, I felt like you have to beat yourself up to do it. No, it must be for like 2 hours. And if I don't have time, then I'm not going to do it at all. So that's my little learning, I guess. But you asked me something, I think I went off topic.
Other, like during the pandemic, have like other things sort of like become clearer? Like are there places of difficulty and are there like practices that you have to sort of address them at all?
Yes, absolutely. Well, one thing that really came to the forefront because we had to be quarantined, we were exposed to someone with COVID. And so with everybody, we've got 3 kids, the twins, and then our older son who's 12 and 8. The twins are 8 and our oldest Leo's 12. But I realized like for kids, for kids and adults, but both of us, if I don't get outside and get that fresh air and sunlight on my face, which I haven't had today, but I just don't feel the same. And I think for kids too, if they haven't had that opportunity to let go of some of their energy, it makes such a difference. So like not having it, like I just took it for granted that I could go for a run, but now I'm running up and down my driveway because I haven't been able to go out in nature. But getting out in nature, having that ability, like being able to be still, I think that's been an important lesson. And then for me, because my family and I have been literally like all on top of each other here, I feel like we've had to face things that maybe we would have just like kept shoving under the carpet because they haven't had the opportunity to go to school. So we have to deal with it. So in that way, it's been a really good lesson.
It really throws things into the forefront, you know. It's like sometimes in life you're kind of just like going along and you don't really like notice things. And just this year has been a year where it's like, no, you have to like address the things. Any little thing that's sort of going on in your life, any little niggling thing becomes like a larger thing. But I think it's like a lot of people I know have like found that they need to adhere to routine and have weirdly found healthy practices like out of this time just because it becomes so much more necessary. And we're in some ways like slowed down or like forced to like this very limited scope, and that like creating this sort of like diligent routine has been really helpful. I've heard for like a lot of people. I'm still working on it. I'm still pretty erratic. I still have that artist schedule.
Yeah, but you know what? It's funny. I feel like as artists, we crave that freedom, but it's almost like the more freedom, like the more routine that I have, the freer I feel because I'm not thinking, okay, like I'm not, if I know, okay, I've got my dance at this time, then I'm not going to be distracted by, oh my gosh, when am I going to get my dance in? You know, things have a home almost. So, yeah, I feel like my relation to time has been, I'm having an improved relation with time, I think.
It's amazing. I wonder, can you tell me a little bit of, do you know about exactly what you're going to be performing with us at Women in Song? I know at least one song, Estaba Cayendo by,
Yes.
with the dancers.
You know what's really funny? I know I was talking with Justin. I've never performed with Tamar's band, Ventanas, and I'm so excited to work with them. He was asking me, okay, so what pieces are you going to be doing? And before I do a show normally, I'm supposed to give everybody a set list, and that's my most stressful thing, because I always love to kind of be able to change things in the moment depending on the response I'm getting from the audience and feel what the next song should be. But in this case, when it's not my band, I do need to give them an advance notice. So like, yeah, oh, this guys follow me. No, but I generally I love performing one of the folkloric songs from Mexico, La Llorona, and doing.
I love that song.
Really?
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's such a haunting song.
It really is.
And oh, I see some of my amigas that have joined on. Sorry, I'm going to get distracted now. I won't mention them, but two beautiful singers I see, Ermi and Giselle. Maybe one day you guys will be interviewed, and I'll be tuning into you on FabCollab. I'm going to have to let Tamar and Lia know about you. But yeah, you know what? That's one thing I have to just say. I'm going off topic here, but I love how during this pandemic, I feel like we've really come together as a community and kind of helping each other, lifting each other up. I found that it's been amazing to feel the support of fellow artists, singers, you know, in my case, but just looking out for one another and introducing each other to opportunities and having the opportunity to collaborate more. So that's something that I've really noticed from this pandemic, that even though it's been dire and, you know, a lot of loss and challenges, I think it's helped us build strength, but also realize that we are there to help out one another. So that, I think, is a positive.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of that. It's like in regular life, you're kind of like going along. Often people are like focused on their own lives and their own career, like down, sort of charging ahead. And when everything slows down, and especially in a situation like this where it's like, oh, our entire industry is is like very threatened, at least for the time being. It's like the focus becomes more like the whole, like how do we keep this entire industry sort of alive for everybody? And yeah, so you just see people acting really selflessly. I think it's been really amazing to see.
Yeah, speaking of which, salute to FabCollab.
Salute, I don't have anything. Here.
Like, it's pretty amazing what you guys have done. And I love seeing, like, for me, another thing that I've tried to do in the past is, as you were mentioning, like I did my studies, I have a biology degree like Tamar, but I never worked in the scientific field, but I ended up going back to school to do my master's in international business. And so I do tend to look at my career in a different way, I think, than maybe had I just gone, not just, if I had gone through and actually studied music. But I started something called the Artist Office. And it was just, I love the idea of empowering artists to not feel like, to not have that sort of starving artist mentality, but see themselves as businesses, really. I know that sounds like a dirty word, you know, or it can be, but it's like a business.
But I feel like that is something that we definitely talk about within FabCollab, and was one of like the goals, was like, how do we create a sustainable business that's also like supporting a lot of artists, but that is like the moving away from that starving artist mentality, because it just like it's not helpful.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is I remember attending a conference a few years ago, and it was for entrepreneurs, not specifically to music, but just like in science and whatever industry. And what they were meant, I was speaking with one of the speakers on a panel, and she said that now all of these corporations are actually hiring artists to come in and be part of the brainstorming sessions because of the ability to think out of the box or in the box, or, you know, just have a different way of thinking and not be contained to just the way things have always been done. So
Anna Lia here said, do you know Anna Lia is a musician, a singer, amazing performer, and she says, she's a past guest, and she says, if we want to live from our, we live from our art, we must have a business mentality about it, which I think is.
Yes. And I was going to say, I'm a big fan of Analia's and also Rosario, who she reminds me so much of. But she's got her total own style and absolutely, yeah. And I think she's done such a great job, as has Giselle, who's part of she goes by G-Sun Music, really has done some amazing things too, working with Music Heals and helping that organization, Music Therapy. And Ermi, who's just released her first single, which is so exciting. And yeah, like I feel like everybody, you know what, one of my philosophies is that we're all here for a reason and we all have gifts. And rather than like what I used to do, which is like compare myself to other people and feel bad that, oh, I'm not as good in this area, it's much more empowering to be like, these are the things that, this is who I am. Like it or not, good and bad, this is who I am. So let's celebrate that and see how each person's skills can be helpful to someone else and to the, I'm now. Sorry.
It's so hard to not compare yourself to other people. And I feel like, I mean, probably in everything, but as a performer, you know, it's just like, but yeah, it's like everybody does have their own gift and has something to offer. And it's just kind of finding what that is and embracing that. For sure.
Yeah, and it's kind of like when you go to a restaurant, you're not going to want to keep going to the same restaurant, right? You want to have the ability to try out different, sorry, my camera here, but yeah, try out different places, right? But that doesn't mean that if you're going to one restaurant, you're not going to go to the other one, right? So I don't know. I think that it's a beautiful thing, and we have so much talent here in Canada that we have to be so proud of.
Yeah, and even especially in Toronto, like there's such a diaspora of music. And, you know, it's one of the reasons that I love like the world, quote unquote, world music community, which to me is just basically like music.
Yeah, exactly.
That isn't just this, it fits into these like narrow genres of Western music. It's like, there's so much more. There's so many other instruments. There's so many other ways of singing. There's so many other like rhythmic structures to explore. And there's, it doesn't get enough exposure. So yeah, so we're just happy to be able to have created a little venue like this and to be able to hear from people like you who get that.
Oh, well, no, it's fantastic. I feel fortunate, and you've got quite the lineup for the 28th that I'm excited to be part of.
With that in mind, would you be willing to sing a little something for us here now?
To my phone? Okay.
Phone to the world?
Oh, well, you know what? I was just thinking about just being grateful for just those little simple things in life that I think I've taken for granted. And now it's like, oh my gosh, just to be able to have a coffee or like share a tequila with you. Okay, I'll do a few lines from one of my favorite songs. And I'm thinking of it because I was listening to G-Sun's did a beautiful video. It's called the Gracias a la Vida project that she got together with women all over the world that she had gone to school with to sing this song that was actually like a love letter to life, but it was also the last thing that Violeta Parra wrote before she took her own life. So it's a bittersweet song. It's called Gracias a la Vida. So I'll just do a couple lines. Okay. I have to close my eyes so I don't feel nervous here. Okay. Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto, me dio dos luceros que cuando los abro, perfecto distingo lo negro del blanco, y en el alto cielo su fondo estrellado, y en las multitudes el hombre que yo amo.
Beautiful. Very haunting. Very like, ooh, quivers. I can't wait for the 28th now. This is so wonderful.
Oh, I'm excited. And I guess I need to actually finalize which songs I'm going to be singing.
Soon.
There's time.
Where can people find you if they want to like look for your work or just see what you're up to? Where are you online?
I'm on Facebook, Amanda Martinez Music, and on Twitter, Amanda Martinez M, and on Instagram, of course. And then my website is amandamartinez.ca.
And I see you have a blog on there so that I'm impressed you keep updated.
Oh,
So
I was going to say I haven't updated it
oh,
in a
well,
little recently.
it's not too out of date though. I mean like I was impressed.
Yeah, I
Well,
have to go do that.
thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing and for singing. It's always like such a pleasure. Every time I hear somebody sing on Curtain Call, it's like the pandemic's been going on for so long, like you start to like forget what you're missing. And
Yes.
so to hear that is like, I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be so good. It's gonna be such a party. It's gonna be
Oh,
a party on the 28th, but also when we're all at hopefully some point later in the summer when we can be outside hearing each other play live. I can't wait.
yeah. And now that spring is on its way, and I feel like we can feel it in the air. It's just so nice to be able to be outside too. So yeah. No, thank you so much. This is like serious. I feel so grateful to be part of this conversation and to be part of Women in Song. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I can't wait to meet you in
So
person.
happy to have you. And I want to just quickly say to everybody watching that Women in Song is a festival that FabCollab is producing, and Amanda's going to be performing there. She's one of four singers, like front women, that will be performing. There's going to be dancers from Ballet Jorgen. There's going to be other dance. There's going to be they're backed by a beautiful band, Ventanas. It's on Sunday, March 28th at 8 p.m. and it's a live stream, so you have to watch it live. And it'll be at fabcollab.ca and many Facebook streaming partners, so you can just check it out at fabcollab.ca. And this has been Curtain Call, and we want to thank again Factor, who is funding this series and so many other projects, as we talked about earlier. Yeah, so we hope to see you all on the 28th and next week back here, next Wednesday at noon with Tamar. Thank you so much, Amanda. Have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. And we'll see you on
Thank you
the
so
28th.
much.
Bye.
Gracias. Bye.